I caught my wife cheating with another man and I am utterly devastated. Part 2. I told his wife. First thing this morning, I went over to his house. She was home, but he wasn't. It worked out better this way because it gave me a chance to talk to her without him there to deny it. When I told her, at first, she didn't believe me. She kept saying I had the wrong guy. But then I showed her the texts, the photos, everything. I could see the devastation hit her like a ton of bricks. She was completely blindsided. I apologized, told her I wish I didn't have to be the one to tell her, but I thought she had a right to know. She thanked me and I gave her my number in case she wanted to talk or needed anything. They've only been married for a year. No kids. When I got home, my wife was furious with me. Apparently, the wife called her husband, and he called mine to tell her what I'd done. My wife was angry, not about the mess she caused, but because I'd outed her affair. I couldn't believe it. She was more worried about her affair partner's reaction than what she had done to me. And then it got worse. This guy, this man who destroyed both of our marriages, had the nerve to come to my house, banging on my door like a lunatic. I opened it, trying to stay calm, but I was fuming. He started yelling, accusing me of ruining his marriage. The sheer audacity. I told him to get off my property, that if he wanted to blame someone, he should look at himself and my wife, not me. He was yelling obscenities at me. I didn't want to get physical with him. I turned to my wife and said, "You brought this trash into our lives, get him off my front porch," and started to go back inside. She tried to get him to leave, but that's when things took a turn. He grabbed her arm, shoved her, and she fell. At that moment, something snapped inside me. I'm not a violent man, but seeing him put his hands on her, in spite of everything, sent me over the edge. I restrained him, warned him that if he ever set foot near my house or touched my wife again, I'd call the police. He panicked and left. Before I went back inside, I turned to my wife and asked, "This is the man you chose over me? I will never forgive you for the position you've put me in." She just stood there, staring at me in shock. For the first time since this nightmare started, I saw it on her face, like it had finally hit her. The damage, the betrayal, the mess she'd made. She collapsed on the ground, sobbing. I still can't wrap my head around how she destroyed our lives for that guy. I've asked her to leave the house, but she refuses. I can't stand being in her presence, so I'm considering staying at my close friend's place for a while. I am meeting him tonight for a drink to tell him everything. Last night, I met up with my best friend for drinks. After reading the advice from many of you suggesting I steer clear of alcohol for now, I decided to drive to avoid the temptation. My wife knew where I was going, and she was concerned about what people in our community might think if they found out what she did, but she also said she was happy I had someone to talk to, since she knew I was hurting deeply. Finally being able to talk to someone about everything lifted a weight off my shoulders, but at the same time, it felt like the full reality of my situation hit me all over again. It's devastating, really. When I got home, it was late, but she was still awake, watching our wedding video, and I could tell she had been crying. Seeing that set me off. I got angry, asking her why she was even bothering to watch it, accusing her of trying to manipulate me. She said that wasn't her intention, that for months she had felt like she was living in someone else's body, but now she was finally realizing how badly she had messed up. She said she watched the video because she just wanted to see us during a time when we were happy. I told her it's a shame she didn't realize how good we had it, how happy I was with her. I thought she felt the same way. She broke down, saying she had been stupid not to appreciate what she had right in front of her. I'm usually strong-willed, and I don't waver easily, but this whole situation has broken me. And I'm not proud of what happened next. She hugged me, kissed me, and I let her. But just before it went any further, I caught myself. I pulled back and told her this wasn't going to work, that she couldn't possibly believe I could just forgive everything she did. She said she understood but wanted to talk. So, we sat down, and we talked for hours. I asked her why she did it, and she said she had been thinking about that all day. She wasn't sure why exactly, but she admitted she missed the excitement in our relationship. I told her I already knew that we had talked about it before and agreed to make more of an effort, more date nights, less work. But she said it wasn't enough. She said there were times I'd cancel date nights for work, and that made her feel like an afterthought. I owned up to my part in things but reminded her that none of it justified what she did. She agreed, but she wanted me to know what led her to make those choices. Then, I told her how I found out. She looked shocked, thinking I had only discovered the affair by going through her phone. I told her I saw her kissing him outside the coffee shop. She was floored. I asked how it started. She said it had been going on for months. They worked closely together with a group of people, and he was always friendly, but nothing inappropriate at first. Then, when I'd cancel plans, she'd sometimes join her colleagues at the pub after work. He picked up on it, asking her why I canceled, and it started there. One night after a few drinks, they stayed behind while the others left, and he told her if he were married to her, he'd never cancel a date. They kissed, she immediately regretted it, and took an Uber home, even though he offered to drop her off. After that, things got more subtle but continued. Eventually, they worked late nights together on a project, and things escalated. I just sat there, listening. I told her I was devastated when I saw that she'd taken him on the trip I had planned for us. She said she was mad at me after an argument we had and took the trip with him out of spite. She knows now how messed up that was and wishes she could undo it all. I know I made mistakes, too. We both have demanding jobs, and I took some things for granted, but I always tried to make it up to her. She acknowledged that but said she still felt like she wasn't a priority. I asked if she fell in love with him. She swore she didn't, that she just liked the attention he gave her. She wanted to know where my head was at. I told her I was heartbroken, that I never imagined we'd be here. We always communicated, but it turns out we weren't talking about the right things. I reminded her that cheating was a deal breaker for me, she knew that. She said she understood if I wanted a divorce but hoped I might give her a chance to make things right. I'm not sure if I'm being a fool, but I told her I hadn't decided yet. I made it clear that if we were going to attempt reconciliation, there would be conditions. I told her she had to cut off all contact with him, she agreed, write down every detail of their relationship, every kiss, every trip, every time they were intimate, and if I found out she left anything out, I would leave immediately, she agreed. I also told her she had to tell our friends and family what she did. There was some hesitation, but she eventually agreed, and start individual counseling to figure out why she did this, she agreed. In the meantime, I've scheduled a meeting with a divorce lawyer next week to understand my options, because I don't want to be caught off guard again. I don't plan on telling her this. Earlier today, the guy's AP wife messaged me. She asked if I'd be willing to meet her later to talk. I agreed. My wife knows, but she isn't happy about it. And for the record, my wife knew he was married all along. Apparently, he told her that his wife had changed after they got married, was treating him badly and refused to have sex with him, and that he was planning to divorce her. I'm starting to realize this guy might have been lying the entire time just to sleep with my wife. At this point, I'm emotionally and physically drained. I am getting a divorce. I met AP's wife, OBS, at a park. It was awkward at first, but she was grateful I had told her about the affair. She said she had been going through her husband's phone, computer, and emails and she found something. It was a sex video of him and my wife. In my bedroom. On our bed. I could only watch a few seconds of it before I had to stop. It was disgusting. OBS apologized, but I thanked her for showing it to me. Everyone in the comments was right. My wife's character is deeply flawed, and the level of disrespect she has shown me in our marriage is unforgivable. I think I already knew that on some level, but I hadn't been ready to admit it to myself. This pushed me over the edge. OBS and I talked a bit more, but out of respect for her, I won't go into the details of what she said. Suffice it to say, her husband is a lying piece of shit who fed my wife a bunch of garbage about his wife. OBS is planning to separate and divorce him, and I told her I'd be doing the same with my wife. We wished each other luck and went our separate ways. When I pulled into my driveway, a car pulled up behind me. It was AP. The fucking idiot was waiting for me. I called the police to report trespassing before getting out of the car. He got out and started yelling at me, asking why I was meeting his wife, and what I was playing at. I ignored him and started walking into my house. He followed me inside, still yelling. I don't believe in violence, but in this case, it was necessary. I kicked him out of my house with a bloody nose and possibly bruised ribs. By the time the police arrived, he was gone, but I filed a report and gave them his address. I'm planning to follow up on a restraining order with my lawyer next week. I messaged OBS to give her a heads up about what happened. She was surprised he even knew we met. She told me she hadn't told him about our meeting, and in fact, she had kicked him out of the house yesterday. I figured my wife must have told him. Conveniently, my wife wasn't home for the shit show. When she did get home, I told her she should check in on her boyfriend, as the last I saw him, he didn't look so good. I also warned her that next time, I'd break his legs. She looked shocked and confused. I told her I knew she was the one who tipped him off about my meeting with OBS. She denied it at first, but then admitted she just didn't want OBS to fill my head with lies and hoped AP would convince her not to meet with me. And I finally saw her for the manipulative woman she was. I told her to pack her things and move into the basement. She had until tomorrow morning. We co-own the house, so I can't kick her out, but I don't want to see her. I told her to use the basement entrance from now on and only contact me about our divorce proceedings via text or email. Oh, and I told her to take the mattress with her because I'll be buying a new one for myself. She looked confused. I said, yeah, I know about the sex video. The look on her face was priceless. I am currently staying at my friend's place tonight. I'll be back in the morning to make sure she's moved into the basement. This marriage is over. There will be no reconciliation. I've made my decision. I'll be moving forward with the divorce, and I'm ready to start focusing on my own healing.